Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm your hostess, Paulette Henson, and today, our special edition of the Author's Lounge, we have guest author Kaheri, and she is here to talk about her book, Magical Woman. So, without further ado, I'm so excited to talk to Kaheri and get to know more about her book. Let's welcome her to the stage. Kaheri, welcome. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. How are you, Paulette?
I'm doing great, doing great. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to hear about your book and your inspiration. So, tell our audience about Kahari and her book journey.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I'm
Yes.
honored to be on here, and I'm very excited as well.
Yes.
And I really would love to share, the contents of the book and what it's about. So it's called Magical Woman: Ten
Yes.
Steps to Unleash Your Divine Feminine Powers, and it came about not my initial intention. So I was born to spiritual practitioners. Both my parents are spiritual practitioners, and I
Wow.
trained under my parents as well as spiritual teachers and elders throughout the year.
Yes.
Spiritual elders here on the continent as well as the continent of Africa. And so initially, though, the book I was going to write was Magical Bliss Birth. And what that is about is throughout the five births that I've had, I have five children, I prepared for each birth. And I prepared through meditation. I had a birthing coach. And what I was able to do and accomplish with those births is to have a pain free, tense free, joyful, peaceful, and even orgasmic birth.
Hmm.
And that was my initial goal to write this book. And I went to a conference, and it was a conference and a workshop with a independent publishing company. Um,
Hmm.
it's based in Canada.
Hmm.
And as I went through the workshop, I was workshopping the book, workshopping, and this book came to me, the Magical Woman book. So I didn't have the title, but the everything about my life was basically being flashed in front of me that this is the
Wow.
story that you need to write. Yes, you need
Yeah.
to write the Magical Woman book. I mean, the Magical Bliss book, about the births, and
Right.
that's a book that is coming. But the foundation of how I got to have these beautiful births is the
Hmm.
story and the gift that I had to give first.
Wow.
That's how. And then when I wrote out the book, we went over how to frame it and present it. And the publishers, they said, this is magical. And I was like, Magical Woman.
Yes.
And that's
Wow.
to Magical Woman. And it became my whole branding from there on.
Wow. That is beautiful. I love that. I love that. Wow. And so, when you began writing your book, Magical Woman, and you infused some of your own experiences in this book, what were your feelings like as it relates to what would you trying to communicate to other women?
Okay. Well, what I was communicating was how I overcame
Yes.
very um, challenging times in my life,
Yes.
very pivotal moments in my life.
Yes.
And what came to me were um, many different times in my life where I had to employ the spiritual training that I
Yes.
received and
Mm-hmm.
in my day-to-day life, in in marriage, and with my children, and
Yes.
in school, and dealing with all kinds of things, trauma,
Yes.
you
Right.
know, how I had to employ those tools.
Right.
And so the book actually, so the book is Magical Woman 10 Steps to Unleash Your Divine Feminine Powers.
Wow.
And I come from the perspective of a woman. And it's not that only women can benefit from the book, because anyone can benefit from the book.
Right.
But my work, as I've been shown and prompted, is primarily and targeted as women because a lot of the tools and gifts that I were given that I was given was very specific to me as a woman,
Mm.
as a mother,
Mm.
wife in this world, and particularly a person of color, identify
Yes.
as a
Yes.
Black woman in this,
Yes.
as well as I also honor my Native ancestry.
Yes.
So the type of book, the genre is a prescriptive memoir.
Mm.
So it's a
Okay.
memoir because I give personal anecdotals, I give stories from my life
Mm-hmm.
that convey a message and a lesson that I learned that I'm sharing with the reader.
Wow.
And it's
Yes.
prescriptive because at the end, I prescribe tools
Yes.
and activities for you to engage in to then also find your method, your methodology of overcoming
Yes.
the obstacles in your life. So it's 4 books in one, I tell people. So the first is that it's a memoir. That's the first part of each chapter is the my story. Then
Yes.
the next part of the chapter is actually the world story because I
Mm.
incorporate research on how women and people around the world, and particularly indigenous cultures around the world,
Yes.
how they have tackled the same issues in their life,
Yes.
giving people a broader
Absolutely.
understanding of the tools and the ways to approach things that are
Yes.
that are available, right? And
Right.
then the third part is the your story. So that's where I invite the reader to reflect on their own experience. I give journal prompts of reflection to do really deep introspection. And I also give activities and tools in which they can use to now see what works for them.
Navigate.
Yeah,
Yes.
navigate.
Wow.
And then
Wow. Amazing.
why it's 4 and 1 is because I'm also a spoken word artist and a poet. And so preceding each chapter is a
Yes.
poem. And the poem is written therapeutically to open up the reader so that they are in receptive mode to the concepts that are going to be presented in that chapter.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow.
And there's more.
Wow.
So
Go
like
ahead. Tell me more.
so as you see, I write very, very intentional because I am an educator of over 40 years, and
Wow.
as well as a spiritual practitioner. And I function now as a woman's spiritual life transformation coach.
Nice.
So the the book is broken down into 10 steps. And the 10 steps, so as these stories came to me of my life, they were organized in front of me.
Yes.
So and it was like it was coming. I was just like the vessel. I was being
Yes.
shown these things, and I was shown that it was an order.
Wow.
I was
Yes.
given a cycle of transformations that happen throughout my life. So
Mm-hmm.
how things happen, they start and then trans um, transition into the next phase, into the next phase, into the next phase. So
Yes.
the 10 steps are those transitions and a cycle that happens throughout your
Wow.
life.
Yes.
And each step is a step in that cycle. So the 10 steps is a step in that
Right.
cycle. So so what was revealed to me was a process of self-initiation into actually being able to tap into the God within, to be able
Yes.
to get the guidance that you need.
Yes.
Now,
Absolutely.
I must say that I've
Mhm.
had many teachers, and teachers are very instrumental.
Yes.
But the ultimate goal is to know how to develop your own discernment and be able to go within and to be able
Yes.
to confirm, right?
Yes.
And have that communication yourself
Yes.
to,
With yourself.
because I'm a firm believer of, we're moving into an age where we are taking the middleman out, right?
Yes.
Between us
Yes.
and the divine within
Absolutely.
us.
Yes. Yes.
Because
That's true.
there's a lot of people controlling and puppeteering people.
Right.
And when you have that own ability to discern and
Yes.
and 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 resonate and communicate with the divine within,
Yes.
nobody can take away your your power.
That's right. Absolutely. Wow.
So
I
this book
love this.
outlines that process in the ways that I was able to do that. And the book prompted me, after I wrote the book, it prompted me to actually create a course, an initiation course for women to have a guided way to interact with it. Because after I
Yes.
wrote it, women came to me, they said, well, this feels like a course. Like I feel like I want, help
They
doing,
need more. Yes.
like I'm an educator, done. And I'm also really good with technology, so I made a beautiful course, and that's available. When people go to my
Nice.
website, they'll see that, and I also use it with my clients as a life transformation coach.
Yes. Great. Wow. Wow. Listening to you, this book is something that is it's so much needed because this type of subject is not really discussed. Women don't talk about their inner spirit and really just their ability to be in control of their life,
Mm-hmm.
and having that communication, like you said, discernment.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge and so important because in today's world society, yes, you are cutting out the middleman on all fronts. Now we're able to get information firsthand. We don't have to ask anybody, we can just look it up.
You're right.
uh, and so then you start to investigate other things and other things. Well, hey, well, what about this? Let me look up that. And so now we're able to really make decisions. Like you said, we can do our research and we can compare everything. And so that makes us smarter and more uh, apt to make those right decisions. But without your spiritual self involved in those aspects of your life, there is a mismatch.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying, you are absolutely spot on because it's just something that is not really communicated. Women know that they have it, but they don't know how to use it for their own uh, benefit,
Mm-hmm.
and their own peace, you
Yeah.
know. And so, oh, I love this. When I first heard the title, I thought, okay, magical woman. What's a magical woman? And so it makes you think about all sorts of things.
Mhm.
But when you're talking about it, it is so much deeper than that. That's the feeling that I'm getting from that. And so I love how you have created not only this book, but you've created tools, and you're like completing the sandwich, where people are not just left with the information, they're also able to implement and to see those results within their life.
Mhm.
And so, Kahari, tell our audience, you have a website. Where can they get your book? Or, are you going to be doing any signings, anything like that? Tell us where we can get this phenomenal book.
Yes, absolutely. But I do want to add this before I say that.
Yes.
That one of the main things that you get out of the book, and specifically the course, and one of the